The hits just keep coming. ISIS is on the run. FBI former director Comey is in hot water. Apparently he lied. And Judge Roy Moore, hopefully the next senator from Alabama, he is neck and neck with a Democrat. How can that be? I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program, friend. A lot to talk about today. One of the most important races in my lifetime is happening right now in Alabama. It is a race for the U.S. Senate to fill the seat that was vacated when Senator Sessions, Jeff Sessions, left the Senate and went to work as the Attorney General for President Trump. All right. The race is between former Chief Justice of the Alabama Supreme Court, Roy Moore, and his Democrat opponent, Doug Jones. Now, this is kind of mind-boggling, but it's also very interesting. Right now, the latest Fox News poll has them both at 42%. Roy Moore had a 6-point gap. He was ahead by 6 points when he won the primary about a month ago. The election is being held, if my memory is correct, on December 13th. It's sometime in early December. It's a special election. Now, this is a critical race because Trump won Alabama by more than 20 points. This is considered a hardcore Republican state. The polling data that Fox just had showed that the Roy Moore supporters, former Chief Justice Moore, they strongly support him at 48%, and Doug Jones strongly support him at 47%. Now, for some quick history, if you forgot, President Trump in the Republican primary, backed the party hack. But the people of the state of Alabama, the Republican primary voters, said, no, we want Judge Roy Moore. He has overwhelming support with evangelicals and some other subclasses of voters. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Judge Moore made national news on 2 occasions. One was when he refused to remove the 10 Commandments from the State House, where the state Supreme Court was. And they were gorgeous. I was there. When those 10 Commandments were put on a lift and removed, I had my face up against the glass, literally that close to watching it happen. God have mercy on us. And then he was impeached. He was impeached. Then he was removed again. He went full circle, was elected again, became the Chief Justice again, and was again removed from office because he refused to bow his knee to the godless homosexual marriage decision, Obergefell, that was decreed in a judicial pooch from the Supreme Court. This man has a backbone of steel. He is one of the most courageous men that I have ever seen in the body politic, ever in my life. And I interviewed him. For those of you who did not see the interview, I had a sit-down personal interview with him with 3 cameras, me and him, in a room for an hour. It was incredible. I encourage you to go to our website and watch it if you haven't seen it. You'll see the kind of man he is. You'll see the love, the devotion that he has for our Lord Jesus. But perhaps more importantly, at least not more importantly, but almost as important, his understanding of how Christianity is integrated in history and in governance, in how things work. Now, what's disturbing about this current race is that Judge Moore should be winning overwhelmingly, and he's not. And what that means is that the Democrats are working hard. They have lost every single special election since the election of President Trump. Every single race that has come up, that has made it on the blip screen, U.S. House races mostly, every single election, the Democrats were hoping that they would show that they've still got the juice and that there was a repudiation of President Trump going on, and they were going to win this race. One of them was the former seat of House Leader Newt Gingrich in Georgia. They've been trounced everywhere. Trounced. There is a massive, overwhelming repudiation of the Democrat Party. But the Democrat Party is still frantic to win a seat. And they're pouring enormous resources in against Judge Moore. And you viewers in Alabama, I encourage you with all my heart, not just vote. Don't just vote for Judge Moore. I hope that you're working for him. I hope that you're getting out. I hope that you're telling your friends at church. Because here's the deal. Judge Moore has proven that he puts God ahead of politics. He puts God ahead of party loyalty. And he will be loyal to the United States Constitution. He'll be loyal to God, to the Bible, if he's elected senator. And maybe, just maybe, he will introduce articles of impeachment against the 3 judges on the U.S. Supreme Court who broke the law, broke their own code of ethics when they voted in the Obergefell case. They were required by statute, by federal statute of the judiciary, they were required to repudiate, or rather to recuse themselves from the Obergefell decision, and they didn't do it. And it is grounds for impeachment. So let's hope Roy Moore gets in there, and then doubly hope that he introduces articles of impeachment against those godless enemies of marriage. I'll be right back. A lot in the news. Don't go away. Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation. Some news from across the pond. Oxford, one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in the world, one of the colleges there, and there's many colleges at Oxford, decided that it would ban Christian groups from having a table at the freshman day. For those of you who've gone to a university system, you will remember that when you are registering for classes, oftentimes there's clubs all over the place with tables saying, hey, be a part of our club, be a part of our club. And some godless elite inside of the system of Oxford decided that they were not going to let Christian groups have a table because of the danger that they would pose. The danger! They wanted a secular atmosphere. There was a hue and cry, as there should have been, and they backed down halfway and said, well, they can have a table out, they can put their literature out, but they cannot man the table. I'm going to point something out that is going to be very distressing, okay? Oxford was a key part of the British Reformation when Henry VIII decided that he was going to divorce his wife, Catherine of Aragon. And for those of you who don't know the history, it's a very interesting history. Henry VIII, in order to marry Catherine of Aragon, had to get a dispensation from the Pope because she had been married to his brother when his older brother died. They died without child, and the Pope gave a dispensation for him to marry her. They married. They had Mary as a daughter, and he did not have any surviving sons. So he ended up wanting to divorce her, and he married Anne Boleyn. He went to the Pope and said, I want to divorce Anne Boleyn. And the Catholic authorities and the Pope said, you already got a dispensation from the Pope to marry her, so that, you know, this is who you want. And I'm not going to give you another dispensation to divorce her. It just wasn't going to happen. And she was also of Spanish royal blood. And the Spaniards were a key part of helping Rome stay afloat and be saved from military invasion. So, forgive me for going into the weeds. It's very interesting history. I love that history. There was a young priest there named Thomas Cranmer who said, hey, we don't need the Pope's permission. Let's convene a college and let's have a whole bunch of priests and scholars come together and hear the case, and then we'll decide if he can get an annulment, which he did. And ultimately, that was a key part of the Reformation of England, leaving the Catholic Church and then declaring that Henry VIII was the head of the church. Okay? So the King of England, to this day, a part of their constitution is that the crown, the wearer of the crown of England is the head of the church, which from most people's perspective is patently absurd on its face. But I digress. What I find so heartbreaking as a student of the Reformation, as a graduate of Bible school, what I find so heartbreaking is that most, not all, but most Lutheran denominations, part of the Reformation, most parts of the Episcopal Church, not all, but most, the Presbyterian Church as well, most Presbyterian churches with John Knox, again, key part of the Reformation, Westminster Confession of Faith, they've all turned their back on God and the Bible. They mocked, they vilified the Catholic Church. They said that the Pope was the Antichrist. The Catholic Church has stayed loyal to abortion is murder and that marriage is between a man and a woman. And the greater part of these denominations, Lutheran, Episcopalian, Presbyterian, even large portions of the Methodist Church, all of them which have their roots in the Reformation, they've said, no, abortion's okay. Turn their back on babies. Turn their back on marriage. And now Oxford, which was a key part of learning. Oxford was one of the most important universities for training clergy centuries ago. And now Oxford is saying, we're not going to even let you have a table out there with a Christian inviting kids to join a Christian club. Does that break anyone's heart but mine? Does that break anyone's heart but mine? God have mercy on us. I'm going to take a break. I've got more FBI, former director FBI, Comey. He's in doo-doo. He's in deep doo-doo. He might get charged with perjury. We'll see. It's doubtful. I'll be right back. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. As it turns out, former FBI Director James Comey wrote the press release that he gave, the statement that he gave about Hillary being exonerated with her email scandal. He wrote it 2 months. The first draft was 2 months before he read it. 2 months. The fix was in, people. The fix was in. Now, he must have had almost a meltdown with some of his upper echelon staff, because it wasn't too long after that, if you remember, just before the election, that he said they had reopened the investigation because of other emails. At that point, my guess is that he was trying to cover his own bacon. He was afraid of what would come out. Now, here's what's come out in the last 24 hours. That Comey intended to protect Hillary, and that the FBI had the facts to indict, to bring charges against players, perhaps all the way to Bill Clinton himself, perhaps with Hillary, regarding Russia and payoffs and kickbacks and bribery regarding where the U.S. would put uranium. So there was deals being made with Russians to dispose of some of America's uranium. And at the same time that this was happening, millions of dollars were flowing back to the Clinton Foundation. What they have finally come forward with in the past 24 hours is that there were actually hard facts. This was not conjecture. They had wiretaps going on. They had informants. They had emails that they were able to get. The FBI knew, and for 4 years under Eric Holder, that godless enemy of righteousness. You remember former Justice Department Eric Holder? They were protecting the Clintons. They were protecting Hillary. And now James Comey, it comes out, had written this draft. You had, and I say this with the fear of God and the love of our country, but you had potential criminals committing criminal acts, accessories after the fact. You had people that were involved in covering up crimes. To not bring an indictment was, in fact, to cover up a crime. Now, the godless enemies of freedom in the press, in government, right now, they're still beating the drum about some connection between President Trump and the Russians to influence the election. No evidence has emerged. None. We're talking about almost a year of this nonsense. No evidence has emerged because no evidence exists. But they had evidence, hard evidence, that there was kickbacks involving millions of dollars because Hillary Clinton had to sign off on these Russian companies being the ones who got the contracts for the uranium, the American uranium. She had to sign off as Secretary of State. So there were deals that were being cut and then kickbacks coming back to the Clinton Foundation. The FBI knew. The Justice Department knew. And they did nothing. Nothing. That's what we're dealing with. Now, corruption knows no party. Okay? Human sin, human corruption knows no party. There have been Republicans who were involved in cover-ups. Does the name Watergate ring a bell with anybody? So this is not a partisan attack. But if somebody supports the murder of innocent babies, then by definition their moral compass is already shattered. Once a person crosses the threshold where they can support ripping a human being out of their mother's womb and discarding their body in a landfill or in a sewer, anything is possible. So what I am saying is that the Democrat Party and its leaders, having crossed the godless Rubicon, I'm saying godless a lot today, the unholy, unrighteous Rubicon of we will support the innocent, the shedding of innocent blood. They have waded through the blood of the innocent to get to power, to stay in power. Once they have crossed that threshold in their own psyche, in their own brain, with their own logic, then they're able to do any number of crimes because they have already agreed to and supported the biggest crime in the world, the murder of babies. There's a lot of people who say, I don't know how someone can be a Democrat. And I've always said, no, it's not about party. It's not about party. But there is an argument to be made that if you will support the murder of babies, it's nothing to look the other way when a former president is being bribed and getting kickbacks, or when a presidential candidate is involved in a criminal act and you're writing a defense letter 2 months before the investigation is even done. You're finishing the drafts because you know that the fix is in. It's not incongruous, people. It's not a shock. If they will support the murder of a baby, of course they're going to support some of these more petty crimes. I'll be right back talking about ISIS. Don't go away. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life. Best-selling author Dr. Bill Warner said, "What Would Mohammed Do" is the best movie series, TV production on the life of Mohammed and Islamic terrorism that has ever been produced. Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700. That's 304-289-3700, or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. ISIS, or as they prefer to call themselves, the Islamic State. Their de facto capital has been Raqqa, and Raqqa has been taken by U.S.-backed forces. ISIS is on the run. Friend, listen, I think it's great. I hope that they kill every single one of them on the field of battle. Every single one of them. But they haven't, and they're not going to yet. But you have to understand something. It's a movement, and it is directly connected to the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is in 70 countries. I have a master's degree in diplomacy and international terrorism from a military university, okay? I've studied this more than most people alive. And I encourage you to go to our website and for free, read my research papers. It's all there. The data's all there. You can watch an episode of What Would Mohammed Do? If you're interested in learning more, get the series. 20 episodes, 8 or 4 DVDs. It's like a college course in Islam and Islamic terrorism. We also have a series there about the Muslim Brotherhood. By the way, I ask you for your prayers, I ask you for your help. We've gone through a little bit over 5,000 of the DVD sets. It should be 50, it should be 500,000. And the reason is because nothing like this series exists in the world. How do I know this? Well, because I'm in television and I'm in movie making, and I have a master's degree in international terrorism with a concentration in international terrorism, and I know the material that's out there. I studied it. That's part of why we created this series, because nothing like that existed. So I thought, we'll do it. So we had over 100 people from 4 continents working on this project. Voice actors, artists, an original music score. Go watch an episode. Go to randallterry.com and watch an episode. Or go to wwmd-tv.com and see 3 episodes for free. Okay? Go and watch. But then, for those of you who have the resources, we need to order more DVDs. And if you could give a $500 gift, write a note to me. Say, Randall, I'll give you $500 towards duplicating them because we need to raise money quick. We will send you 40 sets. If you'll give $1,000, we'll send you 100 sets of the DVD series. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained. Then what will you do with those sets? 40 sets, 100 sets. Give them away at church. Sell them. Use them as a fundraiser. Give them to another ministry so that they can use them as a fundraiser. Give them to your pastor. Give them to your mayor. Give them to your chief of police. Be creative. Give them to your U.S. senators, your U.S. House member. The information in that series is unimpeachable. The references are all there. And friends, we need help. So If you're interested in learning more about ISIS and Islamic terrorism, go to our website, randallterry.com. There's a lot there for free. And if you can help us, please do. God bless you.